Hi, I'm Bill Ritchie, and I'm going to read to you from my book, Rembrandt's Ghost in the New Machine. The main character is me, traveling time traveler in the name of Mac. And Mac has accidentally ended up in Amsterdam in 1660, and he's visiting with Rembrandt. The backstory is that Mac has brought his Halfwood Press with him. So the Halfwood Press is sort of my co-star. Rembrandt has seen this press and he's very much taken by it. He's talking to Mac in his home, and his assistant, Arent van Gilder, is with him. Rembrandt collected himself, he turned serious, and explained to Arent that this man was a guest who was staying next door, an American scholar or engineer who planned to sell the presses in the Dutch Republic, and he, Rembrandt, was going to buy the first one, maybe even become an agent for the American company. Mac, of course, was oblivious to what was being said because it was in Dutch. Rembrandt said, "Meneer Ritchie, may I offer you something?" He suddenly became hospitable, and he switched back to English. Then in Dutch he said back to Arent, "Prepare some tea." Rembrandt turned back to study the press and the monotype Mac had made. Rembrandt made a new proposition to Mac for his press. He said something about playing cards. Rembrandt was excited as he thought of the alternatives to buying the press. He said, "Can I give you a share in the project? I will make small etchings, as I have been offered a commission by the world's most famous. Do you know Spielkarten? It means playing cards." Max shook his head. However, he had learned Spielkarten. In actuality, he had some thoughts about his own making playing cards. "Have you heard of Jacques van Leest?" Rembrandt was eager to make a deal, and he talked so rapidly that spittle flew out. Max suppressed a smile at the specter of Rembrandt van Rijn, frothing at the mouth. He was so eager to involve him, an insignificant art professor, in a printmaking project. In truth, the name Van Leest was vaguely familiar to Mac, who had heard the name mentioned in a conversation earlier. Evasively, Mac replied, "Jacques Van Leest? Never heard of him. Does he have talent?" Mac wanted to laugh at this wisecrack, and it made Rembrandt pause and wonder what Mac could be thinking. "Talent? No," he emphasized with a dismissive huff. "No, Jacques Van Leest is a publisher. He's known for his playing cards. He said to me that if I print etchings on his cards, people will buy them in great numbers. My problem is I have no press. Your press, I can see, will do the job. Is there a way that I can use it? For shares, perhaps, or a partnership?" Before Mac could say anything, Van Rijn had another idea to propose, and he said, without a pause, he asked, "How long are you going to stay in Amsterdam?" "I don't know," Max said, thinking to himself, "maybe forever, for all I know," he added. "I need to think about that." Mac was, in truth, intrigued by Rembrandt's mention of playing cards. In the 20th century, playing cards were mass-produced by machines and printed in the billions. Casinos routinely drilled and discarded thousands of custom decks. Playing cards were to be part of a multi-billion-dollar gambling industry, and adding to that, sports cards and collectible cards came along in the 19th and 20th centuries, which inspired new kinds of mass-produced cards produced by the millions, and novel games, even major tournaments that required them. Mass production of playing cards was not the case in the 17th century, however. Playing cards were produced a few at a time by hand on hand-operated printing presses. Such cards as survived had achieved the status of museum pieces by Mac's time. They were collectible art and antiques because they were hand-printed and therefore they were scarce. 20th century artists had taken up making an unusual variety of custom cards that were widely referred to as artist trading cards, or ATC. That's why Mac's test plate, which is still sitting on the press bed with Rembrandt's ghost image, was card-sized. Mac had designed his Mini Halfwood Press for printing several types of cards in mind. He was inspired by the quirky ATCs, also artist postcards, and even artist stamps. The small size of it also meant that he could take the little press wherever and whenever he could print. However, Mac never thought he would go as far away as Amsterdam, and certainly not back in Rembrandt's time. Mac's thoughts were interrupted by Rembrandt as he repeated the question, "Well, Mynheer MacRitchie, how long? How long can you stay? Can you stay long enough for me to print the cards for Van Leest?" Mac thought for a second and he answered, "Perhaps, would you be willing to endorse my press?" Endorse? Never having heard of endorsement, Rembrandt was stumped, and he looked quizzically at Mac for an explanation. "Yes, you know, endorse the press, put your name on it." Van Ryn was speechless. He had never heard of such a thing. He scratched his head and seemed annoyed, and he calmed, and then with diffidence, he said, I don't understand. My English, your use of words is confusing to me. Endorse? That's a word I never know." I'm going to pause there because a little later, Rembrandt is telling his wife that Mac, this visitor, had made a proposition to endorse the press. This is chapter 31. Cornelia Van Ryn, their daughter, 6 years old, pouted in the middle room. Her mother had scolded her for spinning the press's wheel, but Cornelia could not see why it wasn't allowed. It was fun, as much fun as any of the other attractions in the amusement park where she'd been. Her father, too, had scolded her for no good reason. After that unpleasantness passed, the grown-ups, including Arndt and the man in the odd clothes who talked funny, had visited a while Arndt took the man away. Where they went, Cornelia didn't know, and she didn't care. The funny man had left his machine, the wheel thing, on the table. Cornelia sat quietly and thought of the charm which nice Meneer Lengelbach of the new Doolhof had given her, the amusement park. It was a shiny pewter windmill made to be hung like a necklace. She had forgotten about it in the excitement, and now she took the little charm out from under her shirt and held it between two chubby fingers to Stubby. She remembered her grandfather because her mother told her Rembrandt's father had a windmill in Leiden. She also knew that Arendt's father had a mill, a paper mill. Cornelia wished the little metal sails on the windmill charm would go around like the wheel on that man's machine, which sat on the table with no one using it. She longed to play with it. Cornelia looked up at her father and mother as they bickered about the wheel thing. Mother pleaded with father and said things Cornelia didn't understand, but they had something to do with the machine. Cornelia hated when they argued. Sometimes father shouted and mother cried. Hendrika said, "Yes, I do too understand, Van Ryn, but what if the American doesn't sell it to you? And you promised Van Leest, and you have already taken his money? What will you say? What will you do?" "The American will sell. Already he has said as much. In America, they barter with a system called endorse. All I have to do is put my name on it. Astonished, Hendrika stared at Rembrandt for a full second and wondered if he was serious. She burst, "Are you out of your mind? Do you believe that? He takes you for a fool." "Watch it, wife," Rembrandt warned her. Unfazed, she did not stop. No one is that stupid, giving to someone a thing for simply putting their name on it. Rembrandt glared at her. He thought that she may be right, but he didn't want to give in. He turned away, his shoulders sagged, and he let out a long sigh of resignation. As her husband deflated, Hendrika felt sympathy for her downcast man. Well, that's all I'm going to read for now. That's my favorite part. Mac asking Rembrandt to endorse his press as part of the share in the making of artist cards, and Hendrika pointing out to him, "That's crazy." Thanks for listening. I'm Bill Ritchie.